the best response to "Can I have an attention" I've ever gotten. Yeah. All right, so section number 1 is passion and vision. You know, where's the fire in your belly that motivates you to sacrifice and run for office? And as it says in the questionnaire here, there's no more important question to ask of yourself. And there's no more important story of yours to be able to tell. And so what we'd like is for some volunteers who might want to go up to that podium right there where the photographer is, no pressure, and tell us, just where is your passion? Why do you care about this? And this is an important part of the question. Why are you motivated to sacrifice to run for office?
My passion is my heart. It's fueled me through my entire life. It is why I decided to run for office. I've seen a multitude of different people not represented in the political process.
What we're looking for is what's the source of that passion, literally?
The source of that passion would be my life.
Okay.
It's very difficult for me to condense my life into a 2-minute stump speech.
Right. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because, I mean, everything you're saying is relevant. I think we all feel you in a very big way. But your question is universal to all of us. We all have an entire life of experiences that we're trying to translate into the attention span of the average voter, which is incredibly short. So part of the skill of this that we want to teach all of you is, rather than tell the whole story, pick the moment. What was the moment when you decided to run for office? The world of writing. Specifics matter. Because if you're seeing it in your head, that's great. And you have to start there. But you have to help us see it in our heads.
He was scared, and he didn't quite know what the future was going to hold.
How did the fear manifest? Was he stuttering? Was he looking down? Like, how did you know he was scared?
I could just see it in his eyes.
You know, you see how this becomes more and more concrete? So in this moment, in the war room with Charlie the Palestinian, in the auto sales business, when you are both in marginalized communities, there was this bonding over
The future.
Yeah.
What was going to happen? What could happen?
What's going to happen to us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going to happen to us?
Exactly.
Is anybody getting a little bit of chills?
Yeah.
This is what we're going for.
If you feel it, we feel it. And same in any profession.
This is a skill to learn. That doesn't mean that just because you connect to emotions or you have detailed, rich stories, that's going to work in your speech or your story or your ask, your fundraising letter. You just need to learn these skills and you'll start to understand how to apply it. This is a way to translate your passion into something meaningful. So it's not just, hey, I can emote really well and feel me, but this is what I want to do for you, right? What is your vision? Like, if we elect you, how's that district going to be different? That's a good start, but it sounds a little bit like a politician, even though because it's general. Let's get to specifics. Okay, one way that can sort of fast forward you to it is, how does your district look now in a specific way, and how would it look if we elect you?
I talked to a teacher in Deer Valley School District who mentioned that he has 42 students in his classroom.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's too many.
Yeah.
I envision a classroom with 25 students. Exactly.
Let's dive into that deeper. What does that mean? Like, so with 42 kids in a classroom, does that mean that there are kids sitting on the radiator? You know, let's get to details. Does that mean that there are kids who go the entire semester and the teacher doesn't know what their name is? Get us to a specific that resonates for you, and it'll resonate for us.
One of the most powerful things that any of you can do as candidates is to tell your story, and in your story have your voters and have your constituents hear their story also.
What defines you as a candidate isn't necessarily the biggest part of your resume. You know, what defines you as a candidate is anything that is sticky. So what we have to do is find a way to imbue a character with so much information that even if they just show up on screen and open their mouth, everything we needed that character to convey, even through dialogue, is already there. So that's what we're talking about. What we have an eye for is what it is about you guys that is going to stand out.
So you have a story about a Palestinian man who couldn't deal with the fact that you're transgender, okay? The people in your audience who have trouble with you being transgender are all of a sudden having to identify with a Palestinian man.
Anybody want to be next? There we go. Robert, where's the fire in your belly?
Universal health care.
Okay. Why?
Why? My son is schizophrenic and will never live independently and will never be able to take care of himself. And when Congress started talking about doing away with the Affordable Care Act, I panicked and went and made an appointment to go see my state senator. And I asked, what is the New York State Senate doing to protect the most vulnerable New Yorkers? And he said, we have no position on that.
There's still a little bit of a barrier between what you're saying and your emotions about it. I'm asking you about caring for your son and what's that and how hard that's been for you. 'Cause I want to get into that moment. I want to be in your shoes.
I had to get that prescription filled, go to CVS, and still make it to the train on time because he was the #1 priority. This would have been
And that's
history.
that's the kind of thing you have to do on a daily basis, and this state senator is saying he has no position on it,
Exactly.
right? Okay. You start with that. You start with the daily struggles when your son has a moment. I want something where I can really see what's going on with you. How old is your son?
He'll be 25 this month.
And your son's 25 years old. And that's what you have to do before you leave. And what did that senator say to you when you asked him if he had a position?
He has no position on that. He had no position on...
End the thought. He has none.
Yes.
You get it? You describe cutting the toenails on your 25-year-old son and having to do that on a regular basis, and then walking in to see a state senator who has no position on it. That's where you want to go.
Where we can really understand, oh, we feel the stakes of what it will mean.
Stakes in the writing industry always have to be life or death. They don't literally need to be life or death, but they have to feel like life or death.
What happened was you were feeling an emotion and it stopped you. You couldn't speak. It was literally a second and a half.
Yeah.
And you stopped. And everybody went like that, okay? That's the difference between a pause and what in our business we call a moment.
How it would look if Robert, what's your last name?
Keston.
Robert Keston is sitting in the Senate.
Right now, I was asked by my doctor to go for a medical procedure. I went for that procedure just 3 weeks ago and was given a $183,000 bill.
Do you still have it?
At home, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just got it.
Why, you want to pay it?
No, it's not something I carry around. It's not something I want to be reminded of.
Actually, it is. Okay? So this is really important. Everybody hear this. One of the most important things I'm going to say to you. I'm standing because I don't want anybody to miss this. Take that bill, and you're going to hold it up during your speech. Okay? Now that's the power of props. Now the reason I asked you this is because we were on a call where we did some training for some other candidates, and she said that the reason that she ran, she was describing how her mother was being charged $2,500 for one pill and they couldn't afford it and all that. I was like, find that pill. If you have to make one up, make one up. Props aren't always real, but like, hold that sheet of paper up and show the number to people. $183,000.
And you just
Those
have to-
moments, you can build a campaign around a letter or a pill. And every one of you have your own little props. We're all in this room up against the same forces. You know, and it's not Donald Trump. I mean, he's bad enough, but it's the Koch brothers, it's Murdoch, it's Sinclair Media. Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to make our stories, if we're trying to get people, persuade people to vote for us, or to pass our bill, or to get something to the state legislature, we have to be able to turn that issue, that perspective, into a story that so people cannot look away.
I will listen. I have a listening ear. You know, I learned that
Okay, I'm going to stop
whenever-
for a second because you do have a listening ear, but you're not listening to me right now. Which is, I want to know what you want to do. Now, get in there and listen. That's not going to buy my vote.
Okay.
Make it a priority to go into the State House and to fight until I can't fight anymore, until every last one of you all are benefiting from a statewide Affordable Care Act in Tennessee.
Start in the middle of a scene and write your way out.
Yeah.
Right? Start at the moment that is we call it a cold open in TV, where something insane's happening that grabs your attention, and then you figure out to provide the context as you go. And by you shortening it to that moment, you're starting in the middle of it.
I don't remember much from when I was 5 years old, but what I do remember is living in the back of a truck with my mother when we were homeless. I remember when we didn't have enough to eat, and my mom would sit at a table with me, and I would get the food.
Just because it's important and touching doesn't necessarily translate into a vote. Okay? So what we've got to do now is think about your resume. And your resume is your whole life. What you're asking somebody to vote for you. Okay? So, I'm loving it right now. I'm like, oh my God, I want this person as a friend, and isn't she amazing? And I want to hear her stories. But I'm not like, yeah, this person's competent. This person's going to get shit done for me.
We paid off
wanna get to-
50% of student lunch debt in our district.
Okay. So you raised money to pay off what?
Student lunch debt.
Are we on to something here? Or are we on to something You paid off student lunch debt in your district?
50%, yes.
Are we getting somewhere here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now I'm like, okay. So you saw this problem?
I did, and I got stories from parents as we were doing this, and people who
Were
came
you
up
the
to
one who
us.
said, I'm going to do something about this?
Mm-hmm. That's why we chose it.
Thank you for telling me now.
Guess where I would start?
What we're trying to do is we're matching up our writers with candidates like such as yourself, so we can provide writing services. We can provide these kinds of services to you. We can really help you with storytelling. And in fact, we're offering things like writer's insurance, where you can send us your materials that your speeches and your fundraising letters, and we can revise them and send them back. So we have. Would that be helpful?